Stargazing scientists at NASA are confident that within the next few decades, humans will discover the very first signs of extraterrestrial life. Yet some believe it's entirely possible alien craft have already visited Earth.
Large black flying object. Hey, calm down, calm down.
But extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. In this series, I'm going to investigate some of the most remarkable and recent UFO sightings from around the world. They saw something really strange in the sky that day. And I'll be joined by renowned astrophysicist and space journalist, Sarah Crudders.
The thing is, with something so extraordinary like this, we've got to look at all the more logical explanations. I still think this can be explained by science.
As together, we'll separate fact from fiction once and for all. That is an unidentified flying object.
I knew you were going to say that, and yes, it is. It's one of the greatest UFO mysteries of all time.
From our specially created UFO investigation hub, we'll speak to experts.
We have no conventional explanation for what we are seeing here.
Whistleblowers.
Anytime you step out of ranks in an organization like mine, there's obviously going to be some repercussions.
And first-hand witnesses.
There was this massive boomerang. It's at least a mile to a mile and a half wide. It was huge.
Wow, that's just spooked me now. And finally answer the big question. Are we alone in the universe? Whatever they are, they're not of this world. Four years ago, the world was rocked by one of the most significant and compelling UFO sightings ever recorded. A bizarre object was observed tumbling into our solar system, travelling at the blistering speed of 196,000 miles per hour. The object, named Oumuamua, came from the direction of Vega, one of the brightest stars in the Northern Hemisphere, on what some are convinced was a deliberate trajectory to Earth. Leading scientists have been left questioning whether this was our first official contact with an alien race.
We don't quite yet have the physics or mathematics to explain it. Why is it speeding up?
It was definitely not a comet. Potentially, this object from 2017 was artificial in origin.
At that point, we have to just hope that they are benevolent.
In October 2017, something strange approached Earth, an object unlike anything humans had seen before. This interloper from deep space was first spotted on the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii, and subsequently confirmed by observatories around the world to be our very first visitor from interstellar space. Its bizarre shape was unlike anything seen before. Flat, smooth, long and thin. Around 800 meters in length and just 80 meters thick, its surface 10 times more reflective than a typical comet. Oumuamua plunged into our solar system, passing inside the orbit of Mercury, a mere 23 million kilometers from Earth, far closer than any planet has ever come. By the time the world's scientists and astronomers had trained their scopes onto the mysterious visitor, it was leaving us again. But what the cigar-shaped object did next defied all known understanding. It accelerated, as if something were pushing it on. Astronomers and scientists have yet to find an explanation for the increase in velocity as it left our solar system. Experts are unable to rule out the possibility it was an alien craft, making this surely the #1 UFO sighting of all time. And in this investigation, we're going to establish once and for all, was Oumuamua just a rock or an alien rocket? So, Sarah, people observed this strange cigar-shaped object entering our solar system. They called it Oumuamua. People got really excited. They thought it was a sign of extraterrestrial life. Were they right? Is there extraterrestrial intelligence outside there in the universe?
That is the big question. I mean, Oumuamua, it was discovered by a telescope in Hawaii, and it actually means the name messenger, first messenger. Some scientists have come up with the hypothesis that this could potentially be an alien spacecraft because of its very long cigar shape, it wasn't what we expected an object outside of our solar system to look like. And we don't know whether there's more intelligent civilizations out there.
But did people think it was a spaceship because it resembled Stanley Kubrick's spaceship in 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Well, kind of, but it's because we expected it to be round. That goes with all the current laws of physics for how solar systems form, bodies in space form. So it was an unusual shape, and also it was accelerating, which we didn't expect.
So did it show signs of being powered then?
We don't know. We don't know, but it's certainly interesting. And the question of are we alone is a huge scientific question.
It's the age-old question. How do we establish it?
I've got someone we can speak to about this. His name is Seth Shostak. He's an astronomer at the SETI Institute.
Hi, Seth. Craig and Sarah here.
Hi.
Dr. Seth Shostak is a highly respected senior astronomer at the SETI Institute, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and is an agency established by NASA, dedicated to investigating the nature of the universe and understanding the prevalence of life beyond Earth. So what is the significance of Oumuamua?
Because, I mean, people have postulated that it might be an alien craft.
They have, and some of the people that have done that are actually, you know, they're very qualified people. I mean, Avi Loeb of Harvard, he's a very qualified guy, he's a very smart guy. And he's also a brave guy. He would step up and say, look, one explanation you're just ruling out right from the beginning is that it's a spacecraft. But it doesn't really have any behavior that's so consistent with what you'd expect from a spacecraft vis-a-vis just an ordinary rock and asteroid. But on the other hand, when you see something that you don't quite understand in the universe, it's not a bad thing to at least consider that it might be alien activity, because otherwise you throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Did the shape of it surprise you in any way?
Well, I mean, it does have this very elongated shape. Many people have seen this artist's rendition, which makes, you know, Oumuamua look like a kind of a bumpy cigar in space. But actually, we don't know that it looks anything like that. All we know is it's longer than it is wide. That's what we know. Anything that has traveled, you know, so many light years over, who knows, maybe even millions of years, right? The stream of particles that it goes through would likely, you know, sort of turn it into a streamlined shape. Just could be a result of simply its travels through space.
But there is the potential there, just a small chance that this is an alien spacecraft, perhaps visiting somewhere else in our solar system.
Yeah, it's possible. The best argument was made that this is something that was deliberately sent our way, is the very fact that it got into our solar system. You know, it's like saying, oh, well, all right, I'm going to put a coin, say 100 feet away on the sidewalk here, and I'm just going to throw a tennis ball up into the air, and it's going to hit that coin. You know, by chance, to come that close, it's just not so likely.
Do you think that extraterrestrial life exists in our universe?
There's a lot of real estate out there, right? There are like a trillion with a T, planets and moons in our galaxy alone. So if we are alone, well, that's remarkable. You can sleep better at night because that means that we are, in fact, a miracle.
How do we work out the probability of there being intelligent life on any of these planets?
Well, you can use the Drake equation to kind of estimate how many intelligent civilizations are out there. I give you 1 million Earths, right? Well, what fraction of them will cook up life? How many of them will cook up life with a brain? And how many of those with a brain will get into a position where they could potentially come here in their saucers?
So you haven't got a date where you think they'll arrive? Because I just want to make sure, because I want to be in.
You want to be in? I'll buy you all a cup of coffee, a flat white, if we don't find ET by 2035 or some date like that. By that time, we will have looked at least 1 million star systems, compared to only a few thousand as of the moment. So our chances of finding something go way up.
Thank you so much, Seth.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
How do you feel about that science? Come on.
One thing he said kind of went over my head.
Which?
Well, several things, really. But what is the Drake equation?
Well, the Drake equation is basically an equation, you can see it there. It's just a way of finding out or estimating how many intelligent civilizations exist in the universe. We don't know, but this is a good estimate. So basically it looks at the rate of star formation, the number of stars which might have planets, and then the number of those stars with planets where life could exist, which might be in the so-called Goldilocks zone. So that's where it's not too hot, not too cold, just right for life to exist. Are you with me still?
I'm still with you.
So it's hugely complex, but actually if you even put in the lowest numbers, you still get an answer that we're not the only intelligent civilization in the universe.
If you can handle the eye-watering numbers, so glad I paid attention at school, and work this equation, designed to estimate the odds of finding intelligent extraterrestrial life to its conclusion, then the answer is there are probably between 1,000 and 100 million planets in our Milky Way alone that have developed complex civilizations.
The big question is how many of those intelligent life forms can build spaceships?
Well, that's actually a great question. Do alien civilizations only get so far and then they kill each other, destroy themselves? We don't know.
It's a sobering thought, then.
But let's assume one alien civilization did survive, and Oumuamua is evidence of their existence. We have to get to the truth about what this extraordinary object really is. Coming up.
Do you think there's a potential that alien civilizations are watching us?
Yes, completely.
Ex-MOD official Nick Pope believes Earth could have been Oumuamua's intended destination.
If they're out there, they've probably found us already.
While Sarah's convinced alien life is already very close to home.
Jupiter has got this moon called Europa, and there could potentially be some sort of alien fish life there.
This is getting really interesting.
In this investigation, we're looking at one of the greatest and seismically important UFO sightings in human history. It may force us to come to terms
with the profound realization that we are not alone.
On the 19th of October 2017, the very first known interstellar object was observed to have passed through our solar system at hyperbolic speed. Cigar-shaped and elongated, 800 meters in length and 10 times longer than it was wide, tumbling end over end, the missile was named Oumuamua. The object passed within 23 million kilometers of Earth, which in galactic terms is a flyby. As well as speculation on what it was and where it could have come from, the unexpected appearance of such a massive projectile was a reminder of how vulnerable we are to a potential interstellar impact or event. On the 30th of June 1908, the largest asteroid impact in recorded history. Flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of remote Siberian forest. The Tunguska event released 1,000 times more energy than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. But whether Oumuamua was a rock at all is up for debate. Its bizarre shape and trajectory has left scientists considering a world-rocking possibility.
People have postulated that it might be an alien craft.
It might indeed be something deliberate, something directed by alien intelligence, if you like.
What has really grabbed the experts' attention is that as Oumuamua turned and headed back into deep space, it accelerated. One possibility is that it was a comet, which, unlike an asteroid, is an icy, dusty object which would typically eject vapor in the form of a coma or tail as it passes close to the sun, which would explain the increase in speed. But Oumuamua had no tail. We know this object was extraterrestrial because it didn't come from our solar system. But was it under alien control? We don't know. but we're on a mission to find out.
Sarah, we're talking about Oumuamua.
We are barely beginning to scratch the surface. With Oumuamua, we know that it is dividing some scientists' opinion.
So who thinks it's an alien craft?
Well, a few people do. The most prominent is a Harvard scientist called R.V. Loeb. He says that there is the potential that this could be an alien spacecraft.
It looked very weird, unlike any comet or asteroid that we have seen before from within the solar system. It was 10 times longer than it is wide, and also it exhibited a push away from the sun without showing any cometary tail. So it was definitely not a comet. Potentially, this object was artificial in origin and therefore potentially a message in a bottle telling us that we are not alone and perhaps not the smartest kid on the block.
One thing that fascinates me about Oumuamua is that it's dividing scientific opinion. And one thing that they're all divided about is its shape.
Yeah, the shape's really unusual. It's not what we expected, although we don't know what to expect. But the shape is exciting.
And you talked to Nick Pope about this, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. Nick Pope, former MOD investigator and UFO expert, and not surprisingly, he had a lot to say about this. So Nick, one of the most significant sightings that we've had ever is Oumuamua, which is the first interstellar object which has ever been detected in our solar system. And what's kind of stumped scientists is its shape. We expected it to be spherical and to behave in certain ways. But what's your take on this, Nick?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but when a Harvard astronomer says, I think there are a number of characteristics about this object that mean it may be not just interstellar, but actually artificial in origin, he gets my attention for sure.
We know it's interstellar because it's traveling much faster, and it's completely dumbfounded many scientists. But what they've actually detected is that it's sped up as well as it's traveled through our solar system, and we can't explain what this is. Does this concern you, Nick? Does this worry you?
It interests me. And again, I go back to what R.V. Loeb said about a number of characteristics that he said pointed to artificial origin. I think he mentioned, for example, that he thought that the acceleration could not be explained by gravitational forces alone. I mean, when somebody of that caliber says, I think this thing could be, you know, an extraterrestrial spacecraft, we should listen and we should test it. I mean, a few years ago, speculation like this would have been laughed out of court. The fact that we are now having a serious scientific debate about this, I think it's a sign of, my goodness, how the times have changed over the last few years.
One thing which is significant when we look at humans exploring space is that if we want to go further, we're limited by the speeds that we can travel at. We haven't got the propulsion systems to enable us to travel incredibly fast. So if we were to go and develop the technology, we would actually need spacecraft which are 100, perhaps even 1,000 years, and you'd have generations on those spacecraft. Do you think there's a potential that that's something an alien civilization would do, and this could potentially be a generational spacecraft from another civilization?
Yes, some people have speculated that it could be some sort of generational spacecraft, or maybe it's unmanned. Maybe it's a derelict ship just drifting through the cosmos, and it only activates itself when it comes into proximity of a solar system. This is all speculation, I admit, but it's all we can do.
In your opinion, do you think there's a potential that alien civilizations know about us and they're watching us?
Yes, completely. It only takes a civilization with perhaps a few tens of years, let alone hundreds, thousands, millions, that absolutely they would be aware of us. It only takes a civilization with a bit more technology than us to probably spot us from halfway across the galaxy. So if they're out there, they've probably found us already.
Wow. Well, being the only intelligent life form on this show, what do you think of that?
I think it blows my mind. I think we know so little, and it's frustrating because you almost want to go 1,000 years in the future and find out what we eventually know. And we're stuck here, we don't live long enough. Obviously at the moment we know the limit that you can travel at is the speed of light, but there's so much we don't know. It's so frustrating, but it's also concerning, the fact that, you know, we look at history and when civilizations have met, they've generally clashed. Why do we think it'd be any different in space? Why do we think alien civilizations would be any different?
Nick thinks we're close to finding them. With the universe being so, well, infinite, I mean, what are the chances, really? Because it's just too big.
We don't know. There could be, like, look at microbial life. We could find microbial life on Mars.
Yeah, but microbes are boring.
Microbes are boring. Okay, I'll give you something more exciting.
Okay.
Fish.
Oh!
So, exciting.
A bit more.
Jupiter has got this moon called Europa, and Saturn has got this moon called Enceladus. They've got lots of other moons, but these two moons are very exciting. Europa, it's got an icy surface, and beneath it, it's highly likely to have a liquid ocean. There is the raw ingredients there for life in this ocean of this moon, and there could potentially be some sort of alien fish life there. We just don't know. We're about to send spacecraft there to begin the process of finding out.
This is getting really interesting.
Coming up.
What do you think that the first aliens might not be biological beings, but perhaps robotic?
Astrobiologist Dr. Natalie Cabral adds fuel to the theory that Oumuamua was an unmanned alien craft.
Machines and robots are likely to be the first thing that we encounter.
And the sheer scale of this investigation pushes me to my limits.
That's what twists my melon, is because the numbers are so big, it's almost impossible to imagine. Are we alone in the universe? Or somewhere out there are intelligent beings staring into the night sky and asking the same question? There's little doubt in the scientific community that life does exist beyond our solar system. And with world-shaking advances in how we search the depths of space, we may well be approaching the point of first contact.
But some scientists believe that point has already been reached. When Oumuamua, the mysterious interloper from deep space, arrived in our solar system in 2017.
Potentially, this object was artificial in origin and therefore potentially a message in a bottle telling us that we are not alone.
Professor Loeb believes the peculiar features of Oumuamua suggest it could be an alien probe sent to our solar system intentionally by an extraterrestrial civilization. But there are other theories too.
Some people have speculated that it could be some sort of generational spacecraft, or maybe it's a derelict ship just drifting through the cosmos, and it only activates itself when it comes into proximity of a solar system.
The appearance of this remarkable object has divided the scientific community, with some convinced Oumuamua was less rocket and more rock.
But it doesn't really have any behavior that's so consistent with what you'd expect from a spacecraft vis-a-vis just an ordinary rock and asteroid.
What is certain is this extraordinary investigation is forcing us to ask the really big question: are we alone in the universe?
Okay, so Sarah, we've been trying to find out whether Oumuamua is a rock or a rocket. We've been trying to find out if we are the most intelligent life form in the cosmos. In fact, the only intelligent life.
We could be completely alone in this vast universe, or there could be loads of life out there. We just don't know.
I mean, the universe is so big, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack that's a billion miles long.
The next step in our investigation is to take a closer look at the red planet, Mars, where the search for life is at full throttle. And we have some of the latest photographic images here in the hub.
First of all, that is Mars. So that's been taken by the Perseverance rover. That's NASA's most recent rover to land on the red planet. We are hunting for signs of ancient microbial life on Mars. So this vast, barren, dusty landscape might have once had very simple life. And if that life that we find on Mars isn't related to life on Earth, that means in our average solar system, 2 Genesises within our one average solar system, 2 worlds, which both have life forming independently of each other. So by finding microbial life on Mars, it helps us answer the question as to, is there intelligent life out there?
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, if ancient signs of microbial life are discovered on Mars, it will confirm that basic forms of life, in the right conditions, could evolve anywhere in the universe. What I want to know is, how likely is it we'll find intelligent life? Because if Oumuamua is an alien ship, I'd hazard a guess it's not being piloted by microbes.
Okay, so where are you going to take me now?
Well, we're going to speak to an astrobiologist. Her name is Natalie Cabral, and she's from the SETI Institute.
Hi, Natalie. It's Craig and Sarah here.
Hi.
As well as being involved in the hunt for life on Mars, Dr. Natalie Cabral is also an explorer of extreme environments and has one mission: to learn where we might find extraterrestrial life and what it will look like.
With the universe being so big, how difficult is your job at SETI?
There are more planets than stars in our galaxy. We probably have 400 billion planets in our galaxy. So I would say that on and on, there are probably a lot of intelligent life out there.
What are the chances that intelligent life has already reached this planet?
This is my biggest wish. I wish so much that I could tell you today, yes, we already made contact. But I would caution, people just to keep a simple logic. If you feel that an intelligent species has covered the billions of kilometers or light years to come and visit us, I doubt that it would be just to stack a pile of stone on top of each other or just to draw crop circles.
Is it likely that it will ever happen in the next few decades, say?
We are closer than we ever were, and we are at the beginning of it. So it may be that there are other intelligent species out there that are way more advanced than we are, that know things that we don't. And it may be that for them, distances are not an issue.
I mean, is there not a danger that an alien life force coming here, there's been war and disease and famine on their planet, and they're trying to find somewhere else to call home? Like, we would want to leave this planet because we've wrecked it.
If aliens are coming because they're escaping this kind of problems, there are a couple of, possibilities. First, if they land here, obviously they know a lot more in terms of propulsion and space travel than we do. So they are likely more advanced than we are. So at that point, we have to just hope that they are benevolent.
Looking at the extremes that we know life can survive on Earth and what we know about how diverse life is, can we speculate as to what aliens might look like?
That's a good question. So, depends what type of aliens you are talking about. Are you talking about micro ET or grown-up ET?
Grown-up ET, let's get the bad boy.
The bad boys first. Each world is a unique planetary experiment. So, depending on your environment, you are going to develop a number of characteristics to interact with your environment. So you can expect that aliens will have either a brain or a neural box that gives them the possibility to interact with the outside, and they will have eyes or cameras or something that allows them to see, to touch, etc. So you can go wild.
What do you think the potential that the first aliens might not be biological beings, but perhaps robotic?
I think that it makes a lot of sense for an advanced civilization to build machinery that's capable of reproducing itself and spread across space. So, but definitely machines and robots are likely to be the first thing that we encounter, I would say.
Wow, there you have it. Dr. Natalie Cabral believes the first alien encounter is likely to be with a machine. Could that machine be a Oumuamua? The truth is out there, but can we find it? The sheer scale of this deep space investigation is testing me in ways I'd never imagined.
That's what twists my melon when we start doing stuff like this. It's because the numbers are so big. It's almost impossible to imagine.
Yeah, the universe is stranger than you can imagine. It just blows my mind, all the possibilities that could potentially be out there. One of Harvard's top astronomers actually believes this could potentially be an interstellar spaceship. It could almost be like a buoy in an ocean that an alien civilization has sent out.
It's not acting like anything we've ever seen before because it's actually speeding up.
Yeah, and that's really unusual, and its shape's so unusual because we know there are objects beyond our solar system. We know at some point they're going to pass through our solar system. We never expected these objects to look like this, so it's hugely surprising.
The deeper we delve into this extraordinary case, the more perplexing and frustrating it becomes. What is without doubt and unanimously agreed by the scientific community is that Oumuamua had highly unusual properties. Its bizarre elongated shape, its inexplicable non-gravitational acceleration, and the fact it entered our solar system at all. To try and find out more, we need to speak to the CEO of SETI, Bill Diamond.
Hi, Bill. Craig and Sarah here.
Hello, Craig and Sarah. How are you?
Listen, me and Sarah were just talking about Oumuamua. What is the significance of Oumuamua?
It's certainly an interesting object and has garnered a lot of attention, thanks in no small part to Avi Loeb at Harvard. But although it had seemingly an interesting sort of shape from what we can tell from literally 1 pixel worth of image data, but we could look at how that pixel changed in its brightness, and we could also track its speed and its vector and direction of travels.
Why do you think that some scientists have said this has got the potential to be an alien spaceship?
I think the reason is that we expect certain phenomena that we observe to behave in certain ways that we can attribute to natural forces or phenomena. And when they don't, of course, it gives rise to question, well, why didn't this? If in fact, this object was traveling with some characteristics that we felt were not what one would expect of a comet, for example, why did this object seem to accelerate after it went around the sun? Even though it wasn't sort of ablating material, which would act like a jet engine. You're pushing material off an object, tends to push the object in the opposite direction. Why is it speeding up? Could one explanation be that this was in fact something mechanical or technological rather than something natural?
Coming up, Bill Diamond is convinced that intelligent alien life is out there.
It stands to reason that in other places, life has had the chance to evolve into intelligence, certainly, and technology, perhaps.
Wow.
And we close in on a final verdict.
Oumuamua. Is it a rock or is it a rocket?
We're on a mission to uncover the truth about whether Oumuamua, the mysterious object that was observed leaving our solar system on the 19th of October 2017, was sent intentionally by an alien civilization.
When a Harvard astronomer says, I think there are a number of characteristics about this object that mean it may be not just interstellar, but actually artificial in origin, he gets my attention for sure.
But over the course of our investigation, we've also had to confront the biggest question of all. Are we alone in the universe? And some leading scientists we've spoken to are convinced we aren't.
There are more planets than stars in our galaxy. We probably have 400 billion. So I would say that there are probably a lot of intelligent life out there.
If we are alone, well, that's remarkable. You can sleep better at night because that means that we are, in fact, a miracle.
If intelligent life is out there, then that further raises the possibility that Oumuamua was sent to our solar system on purpose. We're speaking to Bill Diamond, the CEO of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, who has serious questions around why Oumuamua was observed to perform an inexplicable acceleration.
Well, why did this object seem to accelerate after it went around the sun, even though it wasn't sort of ablating material, which would act like a jet engine? Why is it speeding up? Could one explanation be that this was in fact something mechanical or technological rather than something natural? Or the other alternative is there's something natural, but not something we've observed before. So we don't quite yet have the physics or mathematics to explain it.
Bill, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is like trying to find a needle in a billion haystacks. Doesn't it become quite frustrating doing what you do?
Well, not really. I mean, I think even the search for life in its most basic forms, and perhaps quite nearby, the discovery would be profound in the extreme. If life is a common phenomenon, it stands to reason that at least in some other places, life has had the chance to evolve into intelligence, certainly, and technology, perhaps. And while it is a bit of a needle in a haystack for sure, at least we know where in the haystack to look. We actually know which planets are sort of Earth-like. So now we can actually identify targets that are more interesting to look at more closely.
Are we the most intelligent civilization in the universe?
Is it really likely that Earth is the only place in our own galaxy where life has evolved and where intelligence has evolved? Doubt it, very sincerely. But bear in mind that if we took the fastest spacecraft that humans have ever built and we sent it to Alpha Centauri, a mere 4 light years away, it would take 17,000 years for it to get there. That's about 4 times the length of recorded human history. So it's a long way to go.
Thank you very much. This case has blown my mind. It's the big stuff, the big question. But soon, we must come to a final decision. Is Oumuamua simply a shard of rocky debris? Or as others have hypothesized, is it alien tech? Before we come to our verdict, we need to reconsider everything we've discovered so far. So, Oumuamua, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, what have we learned?
We've learnt there's an entire universe out there and we're only beginning to scratch the surface. It's full of possibilities. We've also learnt that we're really tiny, really tiny in a vast universe.
We had a fascinating conversation with senior SETI astronomer, Dr. Seth Shostak, who put things in perspective.
There's a lot of real estate out there, right? There are like a trillion with a T, planets and moons in our galaxy alone. And we can see 2 trillion other galaxies, each with a trillion planets and moons.
That's what twists my melon. It's because the numbers are so big, it's almost impossible to imagine.
And we learned that a proportion of these planets and moons could provide the right conditions for the evolution of life.
We know that roughly 1 in 5 stars in the entire universe potentially have Earth-like planets. And then we know that there's this equation known as the Drake equation, but basically says that a small fraction of those planets potentially can develop not only life, but intelligent life which is capable of developing technology.
Wow.
So we know there's thousands of planets in our galaxy alone capable of hosting life. Not just basic life, but potentially advanced technological civilizations. We also spoke to astrobiologist Dr. Natalie Cabral, who's not only confident advanced ETs are out there, but they could even travel across the vastness of space to Earth.
It may be that there are other intelligent species out there that are way more advanced than we are, that know things that we don't. And it may be that for them, distances are not an issue.
We've learned that we are extremely tiny in a vast universe. There's a lot of possibilities, but at the moment, the only life we know of is here on Earth. So all we know is we've got a lot of questions, but we haven't got the answers.
But I think we've also learned that mathematically, it's more likely that there is intelligent life out there than not.
So assuming intelligent life is out there, that further raises the possibility that Oumuamua was sent here intentionally by aliens. Bill Diamond, CEO of SETI, agreed Oumuamua has inexplicable properties.
Why did this object seem to accelerate after it went around the sun, even though it wasn't sort of ablating material, which would act like a jet engine?
As well as the non-gravitational acceleration, Oumuamua was a very strange shape. Features that have convinced Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard it could be alien.
It looked very weird. Unlike any comet or asteroid that we have seen before, it was 10 times longer than it is wide. Potentially, This object was artificial in origin.
And even respected astronomer Dr. Seth Shostak has been forced to consider the impossible.
But there is the potential there, just a small chance that this is a multi-generational alien spacecraft, perhaps visiting somewhere else in our solar system.
Yeah, it's possible. I like the idea of multi-generation spacecraft because they get around the problem of traveling in space. But, you know, the speed at which this thing is going, it would have taken 70,000 years to get here.
But the most interesting thing to me was something astrobiologist Dr. Natalie Cabral said.
I think that it makes a lot of sense for an advanced civilization to build machinery that's capable of reproducing itself and spread across space. So machines and robots are likely to be the first thing that we encounter, I would say.
If the first alien object we can expect to encounter is a machine, this fits with Oumuamua, potentially being some kind of unmanned ET reconnaissance technology. So in conclusion, we've established that extraterrestrial intelligent life very likely exists. In fact, the universe is probably teeming with life in all its forms. We just don't have the hard evidence yet. But now we must decide, was what is surely the greatest UFO of all time Oumuamua alien or not?
Okay then, Oumuamua. Is it a rock or is it a rocket? I'm going to go out on this because I want to believe it's a rocket. I don't think it is. I'm going to say it's a rock.
With Oumuamua, you know, it is likely to be a rock, but sometimes you have to be a little bit optimistic. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say rocket.
Whoa!
You've changed me, Craig.
Whether alien technology or a pristine shard of a distant planet, Oumuamua has provided humans with our very first glimpse of what lies in distant solar systems. As this most extraordinary of all UFOs tumbles onwards towards the constellation Pegasus, it retains its secrets. But its visit has left us with a deeper sense of wonder at what further cosmic surprises await.